Welcome, everybody, to our deep dive. And today we're looking at something a little different.
Yeah.
10 different, you could say, flavors
Flavors. Yeah.
of patience,
Yes.
straight out of Buddhist philosophy. We're talking the 10 kinds of patience, as described in a text about the Bodhisattva path.
That's right. And the Bodhisattva path is all about striving for enlightenment, but
Hmm.
not just for yourself. A Bodhisattva is dedicated to helping all beings achieve it.
Well, talk about taking the high road.
Yeah.
What I'm curious about is how patience plays into this.
Okay.
It doesn't exactly scream like, action hero.
Right. It might seem that way.
Right.
But patience in this context is about cultivating resilience and wisdom. It's about how you respond, not just react to whatever life throws at you.
I'm intrigued. Okay. So where do we even begin with 10 different kinds of patience?
Well, let's start with something relatable, patience with sounds. Now, this isn't about enduring like a noisy neighbor or anything like that. It's about how you respond to teachings, especially those that challenge your existing beliefs.
So more about being open to new ideas than just blocking things out.
Exactly. The text says a bodhisattva hears these teachings with deep faith and understanding, pursuing them with delight.
Okay.
Think of it like this. How often do we tune out when something contradicts our worldview? This patience is about leaning in, even when it's uncomfortable.
That's a good point.
Well,
I know I've definitely been guilty of, shutting down conversations that challenge my perspective.
yeah.
So how does this tie into the Bodhisattva's journey toward enlightenment?
It's about recognizing that growth comes from engaging with diverse perspectives, even the ones that initially feel jarring.
Right.
The Bodhisattva is on a path of constant learning and evolution.
Okay.
So being receptive to teachings, even challenging ones, is key.
That makes sense. It's like if you're only listening to things you already agree with, you're not really expanding your understanding, are you?
Right, exactly. And that openness, that willingness to learn, is a form of patience in itself. It's about trusting the process,
Okay.
even when it's difficult.
So we've covered sounds. What's the next kind of patience on this list?
Next up is patience with the agreeable.
Okay.
This might sound easy at first,
Right.
but it goes beyond just enjoying pleasant things. It's about how we interact with all teachings,
Okay.
even those that challenge us,
Okay.
and really striving to understand them fully.
So it's not about just taking the easy path.
Not at all. This patience is about pushing past our initial reactions,
Right.
whether it's excitement or resistance,
Mm-hmm.
and really engaging with the material.
All right.
Imagine you're learning something new,
Yeah.
and it clashes with your preconceived notions.
Mm-hmm.
This patience encourages you to stick with it,
Okay.
ponder it, to consider it impartially.
Now, isn't there a risk of just accepting things blindly, though?
Oh, absolutely.
How do we balance this openness with critical thinking?
That's a crucial point. This patience isn't about blind acceptance. It's about deep engagement.
Okay.
It's about taking the time to truly understand something before forming a judgment.
Yeah.
It's about discerning what resonates with you and why, even if it initially seems disagreeable.
I see. So it's not about being passive.
No.
It's about actively grappling with the material
Yes.
and figuring out how it fits into your understanding of the world.
Exactly.
Okay.
And this kind of patience, this deep engagement, can be incredibly transformative, both for our own personal growth and for our interactions with others.
Okay, 2 down, 8 to go.
Yeah.
What's next on our patience adventure?
Now we get to patience with the state of mind in which no mental objects arise.
Whoa, that one sounds pretty abstract. Can you
Yeah.
break that down a bit?
Sure. It's about recognizing that everything, even our thoughts and feelings, is impermanent. Things arise and pass away constantly. It's
Right.
not about emptying your mind, but about understanding this flow and not getting swept away by it.
So it's about being aware of your thoughts and emotions without getting caught up in them.
Yes. The text talks about perceiving neither the slightest dharma coming into being nor the slightest dharma ceasing to be. It's about recognizing that where there's no coming into being, there's no ceasing to be. This realization leads to tranquility.
Can you give me like a real life example of how this kind of patience might play out?
Sure.
Say in a situation where someone is feeling really stressed or anxious.
So imagine you're facing a deadline at work and feeling overwhelmed. Instead of getting caught up in the spiral of anxious thoughts,
Right.
this patience allows you to observe those thoughts and feelings without judgment,
Okay.
recognizing that they are temporary and will eventually pass. It's about finding a sense of stillness amidst the chaos.
That's a really helpful image.
Yeah.
So it's not about denying or suppressing difficult emotions. It's about seeing them as part of this constant flow of experience.
Precisely. And by not clinging to them, by not identifying with them as a fixed part of ourselves, we can start to loosen their grip on us.
Right.
This detachment, this understanding of impermanence, is a form of patience that can bring about a profound sense of inner peace.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's about shifting our perspective from
Yeah.
I am anxious to I am experiencing anxiety, but this too shall pass.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that shift in perspective can be incredibly empowering.
Right.
It allows us to navigate difficult situations with more clarity and equanimity.
All right. My mind is definitely starting to stretch with this one.
Mm.
What's the next kind of patience we're diving into?
Get ready for this one. Patience in perceiving all as illusions.
Illusions. Okay, things are about to get a little trippy. Does this mean we're questioning the reality of everything around us?
Well, it's not about denying our experiences, but understanding that our perceptions shape how we see the world.
Mm-hmm.
And those perceptions can be influenced by all sorts of things.
Right.
Biases, beliefs, past experiences. The text uses this striking analogy. An illusion is not a horse, not an elephant, not a tree. It's not any of those things, but those things manifest because of it.
So it's not that the things around us aren't real, but rather that our understanding of them is always filtered through our own lens.
Exactly. Think of it like this. We often mistake the map for the territory. This patience is about recognizing that our maps, our perceptions, are not the same as the actual territory of reality.
Okay.
And by understanding that, we become less attached to our own limited views and more open to new ways of seeing things.
So how does the Bodhisattva apply this understanding of illusions to their own path? Is it about seeing through the illusion of self?
Yes, the Bodhisattva sees their own self-identity as an illusion, a construct that arises from causes and conditions.
Okay.
But they also see that others are caught in the same illusion of separateness, of believing in a fixed and unchanging self. And this realization fuels their compassion, their desire to help others awaken from this dream.
I'm starting to see how these different kinds of patience are all interconnected. They're not just isolated concepts. They're all part of a bigger picture, a deeper understanding of reality.
You're catching on quickly.
Thank you.
Each patience builds on the previous ones, deepening our understanding and challenging us to shift our perspective.
Okay, I'm hooked. What's the next patience on our list?
Next, we move from illusions to mirages with patience and perceiving all as mirages.
Mirages, like in the desert. Tell me more.
Exactly. Think about how a mirage appears so real, yet when you try to reach it,
Right.
it vanishes.
Yeah.
It has no true location, neither inside nor outside.
Okay.
This patience is about recognizing that many things we chase after in life are just like that.
Okay.
Fleeting, ultimately empty. We grasp at material possessions, status, even certain emotions,
Right.
believing they will bring us lasting satisfaction.
Yeah.
But this patience encourages us to look deeper, to question those desires,
Okay.
and to seek true fulfillment.
This feels really relevant today with all the messages we're constantly bombarded with. Buy this, achieve that, be more this.
Absolutely.
This patience is like a reminder to step back and ask, is this really what I want? Will this
Yeah.
truly bring me happiness?
Yes. It's about shifting our focus from chasing external things to cultivating inner peace and contentment.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that true happiness doesn't come from accumulating more, but from appreciating what we already have and finding fulfillment from within.
This is making me rethink my whole to-do list.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next on this journey of extraordinary patience?
We're going from mirages to dreams with patience in perceiving all as dreams.
Dreams? Okay, I'm all ears.
This patience goes beyond just saying life is but a dream.
Yeah.
It's about understanding that everything we experience lacks a fixed, unchanging nature. The text emphasizes that things are not unreal, but rather that they lack inherent, unchanging essence. Just like in a dream, things appear and disappear,
Right.
change and transform.
So it's about recognizing the impermanence of everything, even the things that seem most solid and real to us.
Precisely. Instead of getting caught up in the ups and downs of life, we can learn to see them as part of a constantly shifting dreamscape.
Right.
This perspective helps us to detach from the intensity of our experiences,
Okay.
to see things with more lightness and perspective.
It's like taking the pressure off, right?
Yeah.
If we see life as a dream, we can let go of our rigid expectations and embrace the fluidity of things.
Exactly. It encourages us to be more present,
Okay.
more accepting of what is, rather than clinging to how we think things should be.
Okay, before we get too lost in the dream world, what's the next type of patience waiting for us?
We're moving from dreams back to sound, with patience in perceiving all as echoes.
Echoes. Intriguing.
Hmm.
How does that connect to patience?
This one is about recognizing the impact our words and actions have on others.
Okay.
Just as sound doesn't inherently come from anywhere. Our expressions can have a ripple effect, creating echoes that extend far beyond ourselves.
Okay.
It encourages mindful speech and action,
Okay.
understanding that even the smallest gesture can have a profound impact.
So it's not just about tolerating external sounds. It's about being aware of the sounds, the echoes that we create ourselves.
Yes. And this patience emphasizes interconnectedness. We're not isolated individuals,
Hmm.
but rather part of a web of relationships.
Right.
Our actions reverberate through this web,
Okay.
impacting those around us in ways we may not even realize.
Wow, that's a powerful image. It makes you think twice about how you interact with the world, knowing that your actions are creating these ripples, these echoes.
It encourages us to act with greater awareness and compassion,
Mhm.
recognizing that we're all interconnected. Our words and actions have the power to harm or to heal, to create disharmony or to foster understanding.
This is making me think a lot about how I communicate with others,
Yeah.
how I show up in the world. Okay, what's next on our list of extraordinary patience?
Now we have patience in perceiving all as reflections.
Reflections. Okay, help me connect the dots here.
Imagine looking in a mirror. You see your reflection,
Hmm.
but it's dependent on you, on the mirror, on the light, on a whole array of conditions.
Right.
This patience is about understanding that our sense of self, our experiences, are interconnected with everything around us in a similar way.
So we're not separate, independent entities, but rather reflections of the world around us.
Yes. It encourages us to let go of the ego-driven view of ourselves as separate and superior to others.
Okay.
This patience helps us see the interconnectedness of all beings.
This ties back to the idea of illusions, right?
Yeah.
Our sense of self, our ego, can be seen as an illusion, a reflection that's dependent on so many factors outside of ourselves.
You're seeing the connections beautifully. This patience invites us to question the solidity of our own identities and recognize that we're all part of this vast, interconnected web of existence.
All right, I'm starting to feel a little less me and a little more we. What's the next step in this patience journey?
This one is quite intricate. Patience in perceiving all as conjured effects.
Conjured effects. It sounds almost magical.
It does, doesn't it? This patience is about understanding that everything,
Bro,
from
yeah.
our thoughts and emotions to the world around us,
Mhm.
arises from a complex interplay of causes and conditions.
Right.
It's like a magician pulling a rabbit from a hat.
Right.
It seems to appear out of nowhere, but there's a whole lot of skill and preparation behind it.
So is it saying that nothing is real? That it's all just smoke and mirrors?
It's not that things aren't real, but rather that they are not inherently existent or permanent. They arise and pass away based on conditions.
Okay.
Just like a conjured effect, things appear and disappear depending on the conditions that bring them forth. Even seemingly positive things, like compassion, are seen as conjured in a sense because they are dependent on conditions to arise.
Wow, that's a really interesting way to look at it. So even things that feel deeply personal, like our emotions and experiences, are seen as arising from this web of causes and conditions.
Precisely. This patience encourages us to see beyond the surface level of our experiences
Mhm.
and to understand the deeper causes and conditions that give rise to them.
Okay.
It invites us to question our assumptions about where things come from and where they go.
This one's definitely going to require some deeper reflection.
Okay.
We've explored 9 incredible types of patience so far. What's the final one on this list?
We've arrived at the culmination of the 10 patience in perceiving all as the void.
The void. Okay, that sounds pretty profound. What does that even mean?
This patience is about recognizing that ultimately everything is empty of inherent existence.
Okay.
This doesn't mean things don't exist,
Right.
but rather that they lack a fixed, unchanging essence.
Okay.
They're constantly changing, arising, and passing away.
So it's similar to the idea of everything being an illusion or a conjured effect.
It builds upon those previous types of patience, taking us to the ultimate level of understanding. The text gives all these examples of how the void is like this, but not that. It's like space, for instance. Space can hold everything, but it doesn't cling to anything.
Okay, I'm starting to wrap my head around this.
Mm-hmm.
But how does this concept of the void apply to our everyday lives? How can we actually cultivate this kind of patience?
Imagine you're holding a glass of water. It appears solid,
Mm-hmm.
but if you look closely, it's mostly empty space between the molecules.
Okay.
This patience is about recognizing that emptiness within form
Hmm.
that things are not as solid or permanent as they appear.
So it's about seeing through the illusion of solidity,
Exact.
recognizing that everything is in a constant state of flux.
Exactly. And this understanding can be incredibly liberating.
Right.
It allows us to let go of our attachment to things, to recognize the impermanence of everything,
Yeah.
and to find peace in that understanding.
This is mind-blowing. It makes you question everything you thought you knew about reality.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the power of these teachings. They challenge us to see the world in a new light,
Right.
to go beyond our habitual ways of thinking and perceiving.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive into the 10 kinds of patience. Before we move on, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Of all these patiences we've discussed, which one resonates with you the most right now?
That's a great question. They're all so interconnected and valuable, but I think patience with the agreeable is particularly relevant today. We live in a world where it's so easy to stay in our echo chambers, to only engage with ideas and perspectives that confirm our existing beliefs.
Right.
This patience reminds us to step outside of those comfort zones and to engage with the world with more openness and curiosity.
I love that choice.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that growth often comes from discomfort, from challenging our assumptions and expanding our worldview. It's about being willing to learn and evolve, even if it means letting go of some of our cherished beliefs.
Yes, and that willingness to learn, that openness to new perspectives, is a form of patience in itself. It's about trusting the process, even when it's challenging.
Well said. All right, folks, we've explored the first 5 of the 10 kinds of patience, and we're just getting started. Take a moment to let all of this sink in and get ready for even more mind-bending insights as we continue our deep dive. Welcome back to our deep dive into the 10 kinds of patience.
Yes.
We've already explored some pretty mind-bending concepts,
Yeah.
like seeing everything as illusions, mirages, and dreams.
Right, and we ended on a powerful note with patience with the agreeable.
Right.
The idea of actively engaging with information even when it challenges us.
I'm still pondering that one, but I'm ready to dive into the next 5.
Okay.
Where do we go from here?
Let's jump into patience and perceiving all as the void, which we touched on briefly before.
Okay.
This one's about recognizing the emptiness of inherent existence in everything. It might sound a bit nihilistic at first,
Right.
but it's actually quite liberating.
I remember you compared the void to space, how it can hold everything without clinging.
Right.
But how does a bodhisattva actually cultivate this kind of patience? It seems like a pretty advanced level of understanding.
You're right, it's not something you grasp overnight. The text emphasizes that this patience is closely tied to the development of wisdom and compassion.
Okay.
As a bodhisattva deepens their understanding of emptiness, they also cultivate a profound sense of interconnectedness with all beings.
So it's not just about intellectual understanding,
No.
but also about developing empathy and connection.
Exactly. This patience isn't about becoming detached from the world or indifferent to suffering.
Right.
It's actually the opposite.
Okay.
By recognizing the emptiness of inherent existence, the bodhisattva develops a deeper compassion for all beings.
Okay.
Understanding that we're all interconnected and subject to the same cycles of life and death.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
If you see everyone is ultimately connected to you, you're going to be more invested in their well-being.
Precisely. And this compassion fuels the bodhisattva's commitment to helping all beings achieve enlightenment. They don't just seek liberation for themselves,
Right.
but rather work tirelessly to alleviate suffering and guide others towards awakening.
It's incredible to think about the level of dedication and selflessness that requires.
It really is. And this patience is a key part of what enables them to stay the course on that journey. It helps them to face challenges with equanimity, knowing that even the most difficult experiences are impermanent and ultimately empty of inherent existence.
Okay, so we've now covered all 10 of these extraordinary types of patience. What I'm curious about is how they all fit together. Is there a progression, or are they more like different facets of the same jewel?
That's a great question. While the text doesn't explicitly lay out a specific order or hierarchy, there's definitely a sense of progression and deepening understanding as you move through the 10.
So it's like climbing a mountain,
Yeah,
with each type of patience offering a higher vantage point?
I like that analogy. They build upon each other,
Okay.
with each patience offering a new perspective and a deeper understanding of reality. And ultimately, they all converge in this profound recognition of emptiness, which is embodied in the 10th patience.
This framework is starting to click for me. It's not just a random collection of concepts, but rather a comprehensive approach to understanding the nature of reality and cultivating a more awakened way of being.
Exactly. They offer a powerful set of tools for navigating the challenges of life,
Right.
cultivating wisdom and compassion,
Mm-hmm.
and ultimately moving towards enlightenment.
It's amazing how these ancient teachings can still feel so relevant today.
I agree.
They offer so much insight into the human experience and how to live a more meaningful life.
They provide a timeless roadmap for personal growth and spiritual development, regardless of your background or beliefs.
Okay, so we've been exploring these concepts on a pretty abstract level. Let's bring it down to earth for a moment.
Mhm.
How would you explain the practical implications of, say, patience in perceiving and all his reflections to someone who's never encountered these teachings before?
Sure. It's about understanding that they're not isolated islands,
Right.
but rather part of a vast interconnected web. Think about your relationships, your work, your community.
Oh, yeah.
Everything you do, every interaction you have creates ripples that extend outward.
Mhm.
This patience encourages you to see yourself as part of that interconnected web
Oh, yeah.
and to act accordingly.
So it's not just about recognizing that we're connected.
No,
It's about acting in a way that honors that connection.
exactly. It's about cultivating empathy, compassion, and a sense of responsibility for our actions and their impact on others.
That's a powerful message, especially in today's world where it's easy to feel isolated and disconnected.
It is. This patience reminds us that we're all in this together
Hmm.
and that our actions have the power to create a more harmonious and compassionate world.
Okay, so we've seen how these teachings can be applied in our daily lives. But I have to ask, do you ever struggle with these kinds of patience yourself?
But of course I'm human, just like everyone else. These are aspirational qualities,
Right.
not something we achieve overnight. There are times when I get caught up in my own thoughts and emotions,
Hmm.
when I react impulsively,
Right.
when I lose sight of the bigger picture, but that's where the practice comes in.
What do you mean by practice?
It's about continually reminding ourselves of these teachings,
Okay.
bringing them to mind in challenging situations,
Right.
and making a conscious effort to respond in a more skillful way. It's a lifelong journey, not a destination.
That makes me feel better. I was starting to feel a bit inadequate, like I should have all 10 of these patiences mastered by now.
It's not about perfection, but
Mhm.
about progress. Every time we catch ourselves reacting in an unskillful way and choose a more patient response,
Mhm.
we're strengthening those qualities within ourselves.
It's like a muscle. The
Yeah.
more we use it, the
Exactly.
stronger it gets.
And just like with physical exercise,
Right.
there will be days when it feels easier than others.
Right.
But the key is to keep practicing, to keep striving to embody these qualities in our lives.
That's encouraging.
Yeah.
I'm feeling inspired to keep working on these patiences, even if it's a gradual process.
And remember, the benefits of cultivating these patiences extend far beyond ourselves.
Mm.
As we become more patient,
Yeah.
we create a ripple effect of peace and harmony that touches everyone around us.
That's a beautiful thought.
Yeah.
So what's the key takeaway for our listeners? What do we want them to walk away with?
If there's one thing I hope people remember,
Yeah.
it's that patience is not about passively enduring difficult situations.
Right.
It's an active and transformative practice that can help us to see the world in a new light, to cultivate greater understanding and compassion,
Yeah, okay.
and to move towards a more awakened way of being.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
And this deep dive has given us so much to reflect on.
Yeah.
But we're not done yet.
You're right.
There's one more piece of this puzzle we need to explore. I'm all ears. Tell me more. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the 10 kinds of patience. We've covered a lot of ground,
Yeah.
from seeing the world as a dreamscape to recognizing the interconnectedness of all things.
Right. And we've explored how these patiences can be more than just abstract concepts. They can actually be tools for navigating daily life.
It's like we've been given a whole new toolkit for dealing with stress,
Yeah.
conflict, and all those tricky situations life throws our way.
Exactly. But there's one more piece of this puzzle we haven't fully explored yet.
Okay, you've got my attention. What is it?
Remember how we talked about the Bodhisattva's ultimate goal being enlightenment, not just for themselves, but for all beings?
Right.
Well, the text says that through cultivating these 10 kinds of patience,
Okay.
they achieve a body that's unproduced, unmoving, unreal.
Whoa, that sounds pretty mystical. What does that even mean?
Yeah.
Is this like some kind of superpower a bodhisattva develops?
It's not a physical transformation,
Right.
but rather a description of a state of being. Think of it as the culmination of all those shifts in perspective we've been talking about.
So it's about transcending our ordinary way of seeing the world.
Yes.
the way we usually perceive ourselves and our experiences.
It's a state of profound understanding,
Right.
a liberation from the limitations of our usual perception.
But if it's not a physical change,
Yeah.
how does this relate to the Bodhisattva's actions in the world? How do they actually help others from this state of being?
That's where it gets really interesting, even though this state is described as unproduced, unmoving, unreal.
Right.
The Bodhisattva's compassion is still active. It's not about withdrawing from the world,
Okay.
but rather engaging with it from a place of deep wisdom and understanding.
So even though they've reached this ultimate level of understanding,
Yeah.
they're still out there working to alleviate suffering and guide others towards enlightenment.
Exactly. Their actions might look different from ours because they're coming from a place of profound freedom and clarity,
Right.
but the motivation is the same,
Okay.
to benefit all beings.
This is making me think about all the different ways compassion can manifest. It's not just about being nice or doing good deeds.
Right.
It can also be about teaching, sharing wisdom, and inspiring others to see the world in a new light.
Yes, and the Bodhisattva embodies all of these qualities. They're
Yeah.
like a beacon of wisdom and compassion,
Yep.
guiding others through the darkness of ignorance and suffering.
It's inspiring to think about the potential we all have to cultivate these qualities within ourselves, even if we're not bodhisattvas.
Absolutely. Remember, the path of the Bodhisattva is not reserved for a select few. It's a path that's open to anyone who aspires to awaken and to help others do the same.
So even if we never reach that ultimate state of unproduced, unmoving, unreal,
Right.
the journey itself is transformative.
Yes, and every step we take towards cultivating these patiences brings us closer to that state of being. It's like we're polishing a mirror, gradually removing the dust and grime that obscures our true nature.
I love that analogy. It reminds us that this is an ongoing process, a lifelong journey of self-discovery and growth.
And it's a journey worth taking not just for our own benefit, but for the benefit of all beings.
Well said. Okay, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the 10 kinds of patience. We've explored some profound concepts, from seeing everything as illusions to recognizing the void. We've laughed,
Yes.
we've pondered,
Yeah.
we've maybe even had a few mind-blowing moments along the way.
It's been an incredible journey, and I hope our listeners have found it as enlightening as I have.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a question. If you could pick just one of these 10 kinds of patience to focus on this week, which one would it be and why? We'd love to hear your thoughts on social media.
And remember, cultivating these patiences is not about achieving some kind of perfect state. It's about progress, not perfection. Every time we choose patience over reactivity, understanding over judgment, we're taking a step closer to realizing our full potential.
Beautifully said. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. Until next time, keep seeking, keep exploring, and keep cultivating those extraordinary patiences.